Good morning, Red Foxes. It is Sunday, April 13th. I'm coming at you today with a quick recap of our racing series yesterday on the Malden River. It was a crazy day. Crazy day in many different respects. We woke up here in Poughkeepsie to about an inch of snow that had fallen overnight, which of course is very rare for April. And we got in the truck to head north. There were, I have to say, at least 30 car accidents that Coach Stratton and I saw on our way north, which is not an exaggeration. I think there were that many. Lots of people ending up in ditches, people driving too fast, recklessly. So we really tried to take our time. On our way north, we were in contact with the Tufts coaching team and the teams from Wesleyan and Bates as well. Wesleyan ended up pulling the plug on their race day. Their bus drivers were having a hard time with the conditions and decided not to proceed just for safety. So shout out to our driver from Shamrock. Is it Shamrock? I think it's Shamrock. Leprechaun Bus Services in Newburgh. He got our athletes to the race site safely and on time. Josh and I took our time with the trailer. We had actually just picked up the truck the night before from the shop after getting fixed up, and so we were taking our time to get there. We were a little late to the race course. We worked with the other coaches to push back racing a little bit, and then because of Wesleyan dropping out, we weren't able to run our kind of double duel series as we had planned. So typical double duel will have, the teams will face off in sets of two. And then for the second racing series, the winners will face off and the losers will face off, so that by the end of the day, you'll get a kind of complete accounting of who's the fastest and the slowest in the group. But Marist was able to race twice. We raced Tufts in the morning, and then we went out and raced Bates in the afternoon. The only probably source of disadvantage there was that Bates was able to race us on fresh legs, and Marist had already run a full 2K about an hour, 90 minutes beforehand. So that definitely, doesn't make the task any easier. Marist ended up doing pretty well in that second matchup with Bates anyway, but it's worth mentioning that, that they were able to race that race as their first race of the day in most of the boats. And so it was, it was a fantastic day. Again, like I can't stress enough, one of the things that is great about going to races like this is that when the coaches run an event and put together all the organization and the timing and the scheduling, we are able to be a lot more flexible, and we are able to call audibles to make sure that the athletes can have a great experience. This is an event that, if it had been a formal regatta, would almost certainly have been canceled. And so a big shout out to all the coaches who were involved, both the travelers who were going to Tufts and also the Tufts coaching staff for being able to be on their toes and make some changes to the scheduling and make sure that everybody was able to get a great race in. we were a little worried in the morning and based on the forecast that it was going to be a really, really hellish day conditions wise. It was supposed to be cold in the mid 30s with pouring rain and high winds of like 15 to 20 miles an hour. And we ended up, the actual conditions we saw at the course were still pretty cold. It was a little bit in the higher 30s, closer to maybe 38 at the time that we were racing. And then the rain, it didn't really come down in a pouring driving rain. It was just kind of misty, and the wind above all it held off for most of the day. We had a little bit of a headwind, and it was a little gusty, puffy in the kind of basin area of the Malden River where we were doing the starts. But most of the race course was relatively sheltered, and most of the area on land was very sheltered. And so overall, it was not a horrible day for the athletes in terms of just the conditions. It was my first time racing on the Malden, and really cool to see Tufts, fantastic boathouse facility, and then also just the little river they row on is very protected. It's about 2.5 lanes across. So, cool for the crews to be able to race on what should have been a pretty inhospitable day on water that was very rowable and competitive. I'll jump right into the matchups. We raced Tufts in the morning. That was our first set. Tufts has a great, really deep team. They've been working really hard under their coach, George. And they swept Marist in our first set. So in the varsity 8, Tufts went 6:08 and Marist went 6:17. In the 2v8, Tufts went 6:22 and Marist went 6:28. In the 3v, Tufts went 6:31 and Marist went 6:35. In the 4v8, Tufts went 6:38 and Marist went 6:54. And in the fifth varsity 4, Tufts A boat went 7:46 and Marist went 8:05. I would say the highlight for Marist of that morning set was in the 3v race, which was the closest. It looked like it looked like Tufts was going to really walk away with it around the middle of the course, the 1,000-meter mark. The Tufts crew was a length up on Marist and kind of threatening to just walk away with it by miles. And the Marist crew made a really big push kind of at the tail end of the third 500 and then into the first part of the last 500 meters to really push back on Tufts and stay in connection. And so we ended up, it was 4 seconds back, so it was about a length and a couple of seats. But just cool to see the Marist crew push that hard in that part of the race. I thought that the varsity 8 had a really good start to that piece. And, talking to the athletes after the race, I think they anticipated that the turn that's in the race course was going to have kind of a more dramatic effect than it did. And then when they hit that turn and they didn't really see much of an effect to it, I think that was a little bit maybe demoralizing or just surprising to them. And then, I think in the middle section of that race had a little fall off in just kind of overall power. But I don't want to take away from Tufts' job either. I think Tufts has a very strong crew. They're very deep. They have some seriously talented athletes at the top end of their program, and they were simply the faster crew in this matchup fitness-wise. So props to Tufts for a good race. The Marist guys came off the water from that series were able to get a little bit of fuel, a little bit of Gatorade and a granola bar, and walk around a little bit, and then we went right back out almost right away to warm up for our second set. So it was really only on land, it was only about a maybe 20-minute, 30-minute break for each boat between each of the races. Our second set was with Bates. So all 5 of the Marist boats faced off against Bates. The first matchup was in the varsity 8s. The Marist varsity did not do as well in this matchup. I think that obviously they were a little tired from their first set and had a tough loss in that first set. But also, we just didn't execute the race quite as well. I thought we had a decent start, but then as Bates began to walk away, we didn't push back as much as we could have or should have. And so talked a little bit with the boat afterwards about, how to approach a race like this. Again, I think the Bates varsity in this case was an extremely talented boat. They rode really sharply and really well in some challenging conditions. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video here, they also were on fresh legs and had not raced yet that day. So that is a difference maker on some level. So the other 4 boats, so the 2V, 3V, 4V, and the 5th varsity 4, Marist beat Bates in all of those matchups. So it was a Marist sweep with Bates aside of the varsity 8. The times in the varsity 8, Bates went 6 minutes 0.6, Marist went 6:13. In the second varsity 8, Marist won it in 6:23 over Bates at 6:26. So about a length lead for Marist in that race. In the third varsity 8, Marist went 6:37 and Bates went 6:43. So roughly 2 lengths winning margin there. In the fourth varsity 8, Marist went 7 flat and Bates went 7:22. So that was a very significant margin, about 22 seconds to Marist in the fourth varsity 8, and in the fifth varsity 4, Marist went 8:19 to Bates's 9:51. So overall, it was a fantastic day of racing. I want to give a shout out again to our bus driver who got the job done from Leprechaun on a very tough morning on the road. I also want to thank all the parents who came by. In particular, I believe it was the Lyons family brought hot chili for everybody for after racing, and I know for a fact that it was a game changer for the athletes, but it was also for me some life altering chili. So thank you for keeping us warm. And all the other parents who chipped in. The athletes were well fed and fueled. And also thank you to the alumni who stopped by. We got a chance to meet a couple prospective recruits for next year. So it was a great morning in all respects on the ground. And we, overall, I think racing-wise came out of the day feeling like we had some work to do, but did a good job in dealing with the challenge that we had. And, again, shout out to the Tufts crew and Bates crew and everyone involved for being able to be flexible and pivot and make some great racing happen on a pretty tough day. That's all I've got on this race. We, on our way home last night, Coach Stratton and I had the engine die on the truck again. So we had a little bit of a long evening getting the truck to a shop, getting the trailer towed to a safe location. We've got some work cut out for us today, getting the trailer back to campus so we can practice this week. And so we'll be working on a solution for that during this week, trying to figure out what went wrong there. And also, Next week's race, which will be at Holy Cross with BU, Holy Cross, Temple, and Hobart. Really great matchup. This is one of our kind of highlight races that we run every year, and a really important one in our calendar. This is the second year that it'll be hosted by Holy Cross on their home course on Lake Quinsigamon. So we're looking forward to being up there and racing with those guys again. I don't have exact details about the specific race times, but we are scheduled for racing to start at 11 a.m. And our official schedule for what boat races at what time will be coming out a little bit later this week. But you can look forward to 11 a.m. start time on this coming Saturday in Worcester. And we'll look forward to seeing you there, seeing you online. I will not be posting a live video from this week. I was able to get on the Zoom and do a little bit of live feed yesterday. It was pretty poor video quality-wise. I was filming with my cell phone inside a dive case, and so it kept getting water droplets all over the front, and the video was just it wasn't good enough to really be worth putting up on YouTube for people to see in the long run. But we will try to have another live feed for next week. Hopefully the video will be better and we'll be able to put that up for people to watch the racing after the fact like we did last week. Thanks again for everybody who stopped by, stopped in to support us, and also for chiming in on the live feed. And we'll look forward to seeing you next weekend in Worcester. Have a good week.